when is it time to sell? When am I going to take profits? These are questions that a couple of people are already raising because Bitcoin is green since more than 6 months. And many altcoins have done multiples of 2 to 3 to 10 to, in some cases, even 20 to 50x. So the real question is not what do we buy that goes up 10x or 20x next, but when are we going to take some profits, and eventually when are we going to liquidate bigger parts of our portfolio? Hey everyone, it's the Patient Hodler coming at you with another video, and in this one we're going to talk about exactly that question. How do we know that we are coming more to the end of a crypto cycle like we did here or like we did here? How do we know that Bitcoin topped out? How do we know, or how can we know, that it's time to take profits on our altcoins? And how are we going to nail the top? And how are we going to nail the next bottom, and so on? Now, before I start all of this, first of all, I'm not a financial advisor, so I cannot tell you what to do with your money, but I can tell you what I am going to do with my money and with my crypto bags, and what I am looking for to maybe get a little bit more out of the market than the average user, hopefully. And this is all a documentation of my personal journey. You're with me on every crypto morning coffee on every morning. So I'm really trying to share what I am looking for in this market, and not telling you how you get rich or how you become a multi-millionaire. So let's get started with this. And the first thing I think that we have to kiss goodbye is the idea of selling that long wick here on the top, or that we can get the perfect entry on such a bottom. That's almost never the case. So we are going to be somewhere in between. And that means that we have to sit down and meditate and basically say to our brain 100,000 times that if we are going to sell here and there is another monthly green candle, that we're absolutely fine and okay and zen with this, and that we're not going to take our money and FOMO back in because, oh my god, we didn't sell the top. No, we're going to discard the upper 20%, and we're also going to discard that when we're entering at a bear market, also that we are going to be able to enter the exact wick. Like there's one person that is going to get that entry, basically one whale, one, I don't know, whoever has a buy order down there that gets this perfect on the month, on the week, on the day, on the 4-hourly timed entry. But many people have asked me, Patient Hodler, how do we know when it's time to sell? And so here is a little bit of what I am looking for. So first of all, what I think many people fail to do a lot is, from time to time, and it only has to be every now and then, like every month or every 2 months, go to the monthly chart, zoom out, get rid of all of these lines, right? Get rid of all of this and just look at it, how it looks, and see how it looked the first time and the second time in these cycles. So for example, here we see we have a parabolic run up, and every of these candles is a whole month, right? And the same happens here. We have this run up and then this consolidation and another run up, and every of these candles is a month. So that means when this candle is red, that's a monthly red candle. The whole month was in a red, basically, or we might have had a little bit green but then red. But overall, you see a ton of multiples, and this plays out in months. So there's not something, even though it feels like prices are going to wick top out and come down in a 4-hour, that's not the case. So you have plenty of time to assess the situation. And the second thing is that with it, we're spending a lot of time in the top area. So you see here, for example, here is at least 2 months in this top area, and here is at least 3 months in this top area. And then we have one top that exceeds it a little bit, but in cleaning up inflation, it's not really a new top. But then again, from a cycle timing, which I'm coming to, it is a top. Okay, so that's more likely the basics. So what do I look for? I marked here in this chart, and don't get confused by all the lines. Let's go one by one. What I marked here in this chart is these 3 green lines. They are the halvings. So when we want to know where the next Bitcoin top is more likely than not going to be, then we have to calculate the time of the previous halving to top. So we can take this roughly, because we're in a monthly, and we're going to calculate it until the top, and we get 518 days. So from the halving, where we are not yet, to the next top is 518 days. That is more than a year of uptrend from the halving. Let's calculate from the next halving to the next top. So this is when the Bitcoin run-up basically stopped. This was 335 days, but if we calculate it to the real, like to the next Bitcoin top, it was again 549 days. So we can say that at the least we want to have 530 days, more or less 510 days, something there and thereabout, from the halving to our next top. Okay. So we can take our halving that we have here, and now this measures the 1st of April, but since I measured on the monthly on all of these, we can measure and go roughly 518 days to the end of this channel. That would put us on the 1st of September 2025. So we could estimate that around August, September, there could be the next top out. But it can look like this, like it tops and then it then crashes and everyone thinks it's over and then it comes back, right? So it could be looking like this. It could be looking like this blow off top here, which is also 500 days out. Now we have to consider one thing. We're a little bit faster in this cycle than we were before because of the Bitcoin ETFs. So let's just factor that in for safety and just let's just start today or in the 1st of February and calculate these 500 days in, this roughly 500 days. So we're going to end up at July of 2025. Okay. This July 2025 could be where we are topping out based on past performance. That doesn't mean it has to happen like this. A lot of things can go differently. But the fact of the matter is we've just started to rally and it looks pretty much similar to especially to this. Like it looks very similar to this cycle here. So the next thing is, okay, we know that we have from the halving roughly 500 days for a Bitcoin top out. But our portfolio comprises not only of Bitcoin, but also of altcoins. So if we say Bitcoin topped out here on the 1st of November, but the first run up was already over on the 1st of April of 2021. And we look at the others chart and check when the parabolic move ended for the altcoins the first time. It was 10 of May 2021. This is the weekly chart, so I'm a little bit more accurate, but it's like beginning and middle of May. So we have April versus May. So it seems that the altcoins and their massive altcoin season and run up roughly 1 month after Bitcoin, which makes sense that every time that Bitcoin goes up and profits being taken, it trickles down into the alts and then makes the alt pump a little bit later. And there's some transition time in between. So again, if we have this first peak here in April, 1 month later, the altcoins are going to peak. I'm not going to wait for this. Like, I'm not going to wait for a massive pullback or so. If I see the signs that I'm outlining here, I'm going to take a large chunk of profit out. And I may not wait 500 days. I may wait only 300 days. So, for example, if we go from the halving and we go 300 days, that puts us roughly at the beginning of 2025. So this for me would be also a big profit taking area. Now, the next thing that we want to look for is obviously the Bitcoin price, because we know that probably the run is not over before we at least exceed the all-time high and put in a new all-time high. Now, that is not too far away. 69,175 or whatever is not too far away. In fact, that is only like a 30% run up, but that's not what we're looking for. When we pass the all-time highs, roughly, hopefully, when we passed also the halving, and we're going to new highs. And as you can see here, I drew into the logarithmic chart of Bitcoin, I drew a parallel channel. And this parallel channel has a middle line where the price is magnetizing around. And we can see that in this parallel channel, we have an upper band that got hit here and here, wicked a little bit above here, but didn't get hit here. Even though massive money printing, somehow it didn't hit the upper band. And this could have to do with diminishing returns. It can have to do with that basically the C crisis and everything was already weighing into the economic situation, and that there was a high correlation between Wall Street and Bitcoin. But what we always see is past performance indicating future rhyming or whatever, right? That Bitcoin is going, and crypto in general is going over this middle line. So obviously, if we want to exceed this middle line after the halving or at the halving, we already have to go past 136,000 after the halving. And if we consider that it might be in the beginning of 2025, that would be 230,000 is the middle line. Considering that we are probably going above the middle line, we're looking more likely than not at 200 to 300,000, there and thereabout. But we're also looking at diminishing returns, which means that we're probably not going to have such crazy multiples, and more likely than not, we're looking at the 3x from here, which would be more likely 150,000. So probably we're looking at something at and around the middle line as a conservative price target. We also see that the ETFs are absorbing massive amounts of Bitcoin, so that could bring the Bitcoin price higher than this middle line and maybe topping out in the time frame, and then we're looking at more like 300,000 Bitcoin. But something in this area we're looking for. So that means for me that as long as I don't see the 100K mark, I'm not even considering selling unless we are still below 100K and we're already like in April 2025. Okay, let's talk a little bit about indicators and lagging indicators now that we know more or less where we want to look for our top, how high we want to look for our top, and that we want to look at altcoin tops a month after our Bitcoin top. Then we want to look at indicators like the RSI. Because one thing stands out. The RSI is more or less always hitting 90, 91 at and around the top-ish area. In this case here, you would have sold way under the top, but here's the second RSI spike. And we see that, again, we have one RSI spike here, where we are not at the top, but we're actually at the next bear market bottom. And then we have a second RSI spike, which is the top actually. So, and this is 96 RSI. And here in this run, we only hit it once, and the second spike brought us to a new all-time high, but the second spike didn't really go into the RSI area anymore. But this is something I want to look out, because I say, okay, if the RSI exceeds 90, 91, the top might be close. And this is what I cannot nail the top on based on the RSI, but I can say, okay, it's closer now. So we have, for example, we have the RSI hit here, and I say the top is close. I'm not too far off, right? And if I nail it here, first of all, I see this RSI spike, the top is close. I'm not too far off because we had already a pretty nice run. But I'm also a little bit away. Like there are a couple of, like there are 3-4 months left to the real top. And then I see here, okay, the RSI just hit 91 and I might be close to the top. And again, we have a couple of months and then we have the real top. Okay, so I might take this as an indicator that right now we're in an RSI of 68 and the parabolic move usually starts when the RSI goes beyond the 70 line. So this is something that which we want to see. Every time that we pass the 70 line here, the real parabola move is starting. So I want to have the RSI not as a sell signal, but as a, hey, the top might be coming in the next 3, 4, 5 months. Okay, so look out for the top. That means for me, especially when the RSI comes down again and bounces back up, like we see it here, comes down and bounces back up. Then I'm looking for the top. Then I'm looking for selling. The next one here as an indicator, I also presented this on my crypto morning coffees many times, is right now you see here the RSI, but it's the TSI, the true strength indicator. That's the one that we are seeing here at the very bottom. And the TSI is very accurate in nailing the bottom, and it's also very accurate in introducing the next bear market. So basically in telling us when it's too late. So on the TSI we see we have a bullish cross, and that introduced the entire run up until we hit here a value of 38, peak out, and we come down. And then the bear cross marks the beginning of the bear market, but we're already past the high, right? So to say, it complements the RSI that we are seeing here. And then the next time is actually a little bit more fuzzy, but a little bit more complicated, because we're threatening here a bull cross all the time, or basically it's happening here all the time. And then when it finally happens, the parabolic move starts. And guess what? A couple of months I presented to you last year that we just had the next bull cross, and guess what? The price went up. We didn't nail the bottom with this, but we know that we are in this next bull move, and we know that whenever the next bear cross, like here and here, is coming in, that's the latest moment to get rid of our bags, basically, because that is when the Bitcoin top is already in here, and that is when Bitcoin is actually topping out right here, where the back cross happens, and then the bear market is starting. So for me, the RSI is going to say, okay, the peak, the top is coming, and the TSI is saying you're too late, the top is already in. So it's somewhere in between, but we also see the TSI topping out and coming back down, and that could be more of an indicator for us. So you see here this trend line, we could see the TSI coming to this trend line, bouncing, and that's it, right? That's it for Bitcoin. We see here, for example, for here the TSI, that's basically it. There's a little bit more, but basically that's it, right? And here also TSI hits this trend line, that's it for Bitcoin. So these are things that I'm looking for, and yet I know I will not be able to nail it, but I want to go very close. And I know that this is not the time for me to. There are a couple of things like altcoins that are very low market cap and that did a 10x. I want to take out my initial investment plus a little bit of profit, because I don't know if they will survive 500 more days. But with everything like a Bitcoin, a VeChain, Ethereum, and stuff like that, I'm pretty much confident to hold them for the next 500 days or so. And yes, I will be shaving off profits once I see these signals, right? Once I see RSI going over 90, that's for me absolute a signal to start scaling out. I mean, that's Bitcoin, and then plus 1 month, as we saw, is the altcoins, right? So let me know in the comments below what your strategy is, which indicator I should look at more, and what you think about the strategy with RSI, TSI, parallel channel, target, and calculating the Bitcoin timing. We're a couple of days off of the Bitcoin halving, so we're going to see how it behaves, and we're going to readjust the strategy in accordance with what we have seen here right now. So wherever you are, guys, on the world, Have yourselves a great morning, evening, day, night, or afternoon. Smash up the like button for these updates, and I see you in the next one.